Ang Midnight Bookstore Basement Promise on the receipt roll. The bookstore on Ash keeps two clocks, one for the people buying paperbacks, one for the people who hide inside them. By day it's book clubs and coffee lids. After midnight it becomes a murmur with aisles. The front windows fog themselves modestly, and the bell over the door practices restraint. I push through with my phone face down in my left pocket, the pocket I use for things that are supposed to make it home, and nodded at the night clerk who knows enough to let sins browse. Back home, Eli had said, "Can we talk tomorrow?" in the voice that really means please stay now. Our couch is a courtroom when it wants to be. If we sit at opposite ends long enough, it swears us in. I left before the cross-examination put on slippers. On the sidewalk, my screen lit with a message from Jay. James in my contacts, Jay in the way I label hazards to make them smaller. Basement. Just talk. By day, I fix other people's paragraphs for a publisher that believes italics is a lifestyle. By night, I try not to turn my own sentences into weapons. Eli and I keep a code that works when we remember it. T. Means come here. You awake. Means I'm scared. Tomorrow means not yet, but don't go far. James had drifted back into my orbit 2 months ago when I attended a launch in this very store. He was the event's manager, sleeves pushed, collar unpunished, a laugh that sounded like a glass agreeing to be set down gently. He is professionally gentle with books and informally careful with people. He didn't ask for anything. That was how I started bringing him everything. The basement door lives behind new releases and denial. The stairs creak a ritual. Down there the store keeps its ambitions. Folding chairs, extra stock, a small refrigerator that makes promises to Seltzer, and a thermal receipt printer with a roll like a scroll. James stood beside a table stacked with returns, the kind of neat that suggests well-behaved chaos. The string lights overhead made his face into a polite rumor. "You came," he said, "because men do not tire of pretending arrival is a plot twist." "I came to return something," I said. "My spare key, your restraint." "Your name," I told him. "It's been on my mouth too long for its own health." He tore a length of paper from the receipt roll and set it on the table with a Sharpie, industrial faith in a plastic tube. "3 words," he said. "Why are you here?" "3 words is cruel," I said. "That's why they work." He gestured at the paper, then at the ceiling, as if the fiction above us would object to a monologue. "No speeches in the basement. It echoes." I wrote proud at breakfast. Beneath it, smaller like a fuse I might or might not light, touch before arguing. He read the ink as if it had temperature. He didn't touch me. His hand hovered a breath from my lapel, the distance a match keeps during training, and fell back to the table like the poetry section had vetoed contact. "Does he know?" James asked. He didn't need to weaponize the pronoun. "He knows the apartment is quiet," I said. We let the book smell do its old secular mercy. He stepped into my weather. Heat arrived before hands do when men are trying to be better than their appetites. "Tell me no," he said, the sentence he uses when he wants me to believe the fence is still there. I didn't. I met him in the inch that rewrites evenings. His mouth tasted like mint and a stubborn citrus. When his hand found the back of my neck, his grip remembered humane limits. My body answered like a courtroom that wants the witness anyway. He made the sound men make when a small country surrenders and calls it diplomacy. I made the sound I've learned not to hate when it belongs to him. We didn't rush. Basements punish speed with boxes. His mouth found the hinge of my jaw. Mine found the line behind his ear where regret loses vocabulary. His palm slid under my shirt and rested flat a second. "Do you swear?" Then moved with attention rather than appetite. He guided my hand down with the steadiness of someone who respects tools. I closed my fingers and he exhaled against my mouth a truth nobody paid to hear. He reached for me and I let him. We stayed quiet because paper prefers prose. Somewhere, a fluorescent tube flickered like an honest saint out of breath. "We already cheated," he said when breath learned its manners again. "We cheated the night we started telling each other the truth before we told it at home." "I know," I said, and the pipes agreed by doing their work audibly and without judgment. He folded the receipt strip and slid it into my left pocket with ceremonial slowness. His thumb traced my wrist once and chose not to stay. He stepped back the moral inch that passes inspection. "I booked a room at the hotel across the street," he said, not triumphant. "Weather report, not prophecy. Refundable. We could stand at the window and not touch for 60 seconds to prove we remember ceremony. We could keep the do not disturb honest." "I'm tired of being clever," I said. "Clever's a blurb," he said. "Accurate is a line break." He opened a box and produced a novelty magnet shaped like a little paperback, ridiculous and perfect, and pressed it into my palm. "For your fridge," he said. "Cold helps letters behave." He showed me the shelf of author copies that never found their readers, bright spines with patient posture, like gentlemen who came to the ball and learned the music is for someone else. He ran a finger along a title that deserved better and said nothing. "Text me a weather report in the morning," he said. "Tell me if the kettle beat the reasons." "It usually does," I said, "when we let it." Outside, the city had chosen a temperature and meant it. The crosswalk gave me time, I took it. The apartment offered its square of kitchen light and the fridge's patient hum. Eli sat on the floor with his back against the door, sleeves pushed to his elbows, one ankle crossed over the other, the posture manuals use when they draw people who might still choose tenderness. He didn't ask where I'd been. He tilted his head toward the place beside him. I sat. "Do you want to be asked?" he said, voice steady, not performing mercy, offering it. "Please," I said, because prompts are the scaffolding of my better self. "Are you lonely?" "Some nights," I said. "Not here. Not when you ask first. Not when the kettle outruns the reasons." I took his wrist and placed his hand on my forearm the way he does when he needs to make sure I'm not inventing weather. His thumb traced once and decided to believe me. "I feel useful," he said. "I want to be wanted before I'm useful." "Tonight's procedure," I said. "Touch first, argue second, report later." The kettle clicked like a stamp in a country that still believes in mail. He poured water over mint. We called it dinner because names are cheaper than regret. I pinned the folded receipt beneath the paperback magnet so Proud at Breakfast faced the room. Eli read the graphite and his mouth did the smaller, braver thing. He took the dry erase marker from the cup by the fridge and wrote beneath the magnet, "Tomorrow, keep the torque." He didn't grin. He nodded like a man assembling a morning from honest screws. We made a rule that isn't noble. When prosecution tries to wear a bathrobe, one of us says bookstore and the other puts the kettle on while the first puts his hands where history can find them. 5 words when 5 are enough. Stop at the shoulder, not the ditch. Try to want what we promised, and when we don't, write 3 words on small paper and tell the room where we'll fail differently tomorrow. Days do what days do when you're trying to be an amateur human with professional consistency. The receipt in my pocket learned the shape of my left hand. Paper learns its carriers. On the late bus, I drafted messages to no one that began "I didn't ask" because I thought that counted as kindness and ended "May your breakfast go right." I didn't send them. The not sending felt like a skill borrowed from end papers. Bind, then rest. A week later, afternoon tried to be a test. A debut author wanted me to turn the plot polite without removing the knife. The train chose philosophy over punctuality. I walked past the bookstore and bought nothing. I left a bottle of water on the steps with a note. For whoever is waiting for a sister. The night clerk gave me the nod bridges use when they've held and will hold again. On my way home, I slipped a blank bookmark into my pocket and wrote "Turn toward your name" across the clean side. I didn't light anything. James and I adjusted our grammar, fewer messages. No hotel windows confusing quiet with permission. If we failed quieter. If we stopped without applause. Still, we orbited. He sent a photo of a handwritten shelf talker with my initials hidden in the flourish. I replied with steam curling over 2 mugs and Eli's unshowy script beneath the magnet torque. We flirted by margin notes. We confessed by inventory. Stormlight tried to make a poem of the street one evening. A pipe in the basement coughed and the store needed towels more than conversation. James texted, "Flood's polite. Bring hands." I was 5 blocks away and too willing. We stacked books on higher tables, built small cities of caution. When the drips settled into manageable verbs, he leaned against the returns cart like a man who had passed a quiz he hadn't studied for. He kissed me with a soft hunger that didn't pretend to be brave. My back met a column, his hand found my hip. Somewhere a cardboard case sighed its opinion. We didn't rush. We mapped mercy with our mouths, rehearsal with our hands. His palm slid under my shirt and paused, "Do you swear?" Then traveled only as far as the better version of me allowed. I bracketed him with a grip he could leave without proving anything. He reached for me and I let him. We stayed quiet because the room smelled like wet paper and effort, and it deserved reverence. "We're bad at quitting," he said, forehead to mine. "We're good at failing differently," I said into his laugh. He breathed out the kind of yes that doesn't need applause. "Text me a weather report in the morning," he said. "Tell me if the kettle beat the reasons." "It usually does," I said, "when we let it." Eli met me at home with the posture of a question he had decided not to weaponize. He smelled like basil and a decision that hadn't yet needed witnesses. "Hungry?" he asked, and the word came without barbs. We ate toast like it had been newly invented. After, he wrote under the magnet, "Ask before leaving." I wrote, "Hold me first." We signed because ink sometimes keeps 2 men from becoming hatchets. On a Tuesday with ordinary weather, I told him the inventory. James's name, the rooms, the fence I kept bragging about by leaning on it. He did not put on a robe of verdicts. He said, "Stay while you learn the thing you say you want to learn. But don't make me a lobby where you rest your guilty courage before you spend it elsewhere." Breakfast became a place with rules. No phones at the table. No rehearsed cruelty before coffee. No pretending tomorrow is a coat closet where tonight can hang unexamined. I turned the receipt over and added 3 new words: "Choose the hard." Eli watched me write and didn't ask for a receipt. We shrank the orbit. Fewer basements. No doors that locked from the inside. James sent a picture of the staff picks shelf captioned "Stayed." I hearted it and didn't go. He hearted the heart and let it be. The store hosted a midnight salon for a poet who made grief feel like a solvable puzzle. I stood in the back with a borrowed tie and the complicated pride of someone who believes in lines more than endings. James didn't look for me. The part of him that belongs to the room refused. That's how I knew he was taking this seriously. After, he sent a single photo. The receipt printer sleeping. One tiny green LED insisting still here. I sent back the magnet on our fridge and the folded strip beneath it. We left it there. We fail and fail differently and fail in ways that don't require anyone to stand under string lights pretending to know which sentence will save them. The room does not demand a verdict. The morning remembers its job. I still carry the receipt in my left pocket. It warms against my thigh like a small, unlicensed gravity, heavier than paper has any right to be. Proud at breakfast. Touch before arguing. Choose the hard. None of it is noble. All of it is procedural, like shelving. You put the story where it belongs, you make space for what's new, and you hope the next person who needs it knows which alphabet you used.